I'm curious what you meant by the business part. Wasn't quite tracking, but talk about that.
Yeah. So this whole idea, I spend a lot of time on TikTok, right? Like when my kids are at gym or what have you. And I got into this idea through a video. I was watching a lady named, I can't remember her name, but she talked about credit stacking. And you could create an LLC and then get business credit through there. Obviously, the first couple ones you have to personally guarantee because they're not going to give you any money. But having an LLC or corporation is just basically just another layer of protection. But you can also use it as a financial tool, not to taxes, but to use the legal loopholes that the IRS has. So this thing is, you get 5 credit cards and you get up to $250,000 in credit cards, and that becomes a down payment for a business, right? So now you're totally 100% funded. The only problem is you have to make sure that there's calculations to figure out your ROI. But let's say that we're going to buy a laundry business and it's $1 million. There was a company for sale in the Bay Area. They had 6 or 7 laundromats throughout the peninsula, and they were selling it for like $1 million. I'm like, oh, let's look into it. And I was talking to Wayne about it. How can we get the cash? Because you talk to a banker, in order for them to fund it, you're going to need 20, 25, 30% down for them to fund a loan on that. Unless the seller is willing to finance that, which typically it's 50-50 these days, right? When you're looking at buying a business. But you buy a business, and let's say that the ROI, let's say that the total revenue for the year is $400,000. So the ROI, generally speaking, is about 2.5, right? 2.5 years to return your total investment of $1 million. You can spread that out over 5 years, 10 years, 16 years, and lower the payback. But then the delta is your income. And like this guy was saying, he was making like $160,000 a year just to do that. But again, I didn't look into it. And so the whole idea behind credit stacking or capital stacking is doing that. The alternative to that is getting investors. So like Patrick, you give me $50,000. Wayne, you give me $50,000. I put in $50,000, and then we have 5 partners, and then we develop a management company. It's the same thing as a REIT or a syndicate when you're buying apartments.
Yeah, it's like basically like a private offering, right? Raising money it's a private fund. It's not public. It's not, nothing like that. But typically there are some things regulating that though. Like you got to be an accredited investor if you're trying to do it. But just so I'm clear on what you're talking about with the credit stack, it's basically you're opening lines of credit or credit cards or what have you. Lines of credit sounds like a business line of credit, LLCs, right? So that you open up enough to purchase whatever business that you're looking to buy. That's basically the short version, right?
So from my little world, I look at apartments, right? From duplex all the way up to 30, 40 units. I'm looking at buying a couple, and it's the same formulas. But after you get past 4 unit per sale, let's say you have 5-plex, now it's a commercial property. So it becomes a business banking loan. You can go to SBA, you can go to VA, SBA, but all of those require personal guarantee that you take over that business. And if that business flops because of you, then you owe the bank that $1 million or whatever it is you buy.
So if you go to purchase an investment property of more than 4 units, it's now considered a commercial loan. It's like a complete different bucket, right? When you deal with the financing with the lender. And this is not even, you're dealing with probably strictly with banks now.
Right. And typically those loans are 5 years, balloon payment. You have to refinance after 5 years, 3 years, 10 years, depending on the bank, who you work with.
So this reminded me of some of the issues we're hearing that could be coming up over the next year to 2 years is those types of loans having to refinance into a very different interest environment, right? Which could lead to opportunities for some and disasters for others. Is that right?
Yeah. So going back to qualifying the 4 units and less and 5 units plus. So anything under 4 units is governed under RESPA guidelines. RESPA is real estate, blah, blah, blah. It's for the consumer. It's more consumer friendly. Consumer protections are there. Those are the Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac type loans. There's alternative loans to that. After 5 units, when it's 5 units or more, it becomes a commercial banking product when you loan. And sometimes those lenders will require like 40% or 30%
Oh,
down
wow.
payment. Yeah.
Wow.
Which is why you have a REIT or a syndicate. Now, syndicate and REITs, they have they're basically the same thing. The only major difference is you have tax advantages with a syndication versus you don't on a REIT, because a REIT's more of in my brain, it's more of a mutual fund versus buying stock. You're buying stock, then you lose it. You have to pay taxes if you profit, or you get to use that as a write-off, right?
Also, I need to learn more about, because it's a goal of mine to just get smarter on this, so that the hope is to do something here in that space. But I think one of the bigger differences on top of what you said is, and I believe this is true, is that when they read, you have to get that registered. You need probably way more capitalization, I would imagine, to list a REIT. Let's
Private REIT,
Oh, I see what you're saying. You're describing like a private REIT versus a syndicate, which are both private.
they're not traded on the stock exchange or anything. There's
They're
certain,
private.
like if you started it, you would have to have it regulated through the
Yeah.
FTC. You would have to have it recorded, etc. If it's just 5 of us going in, we have a private agreement. We have a lawyer draw that up, what the legal agreement is, how it's going to be accounted for, what the exit strategy is. If a partner doesn't produce, what the expectations are of each partner, right? And you can run it like a small business or a small partnership.
That's a syndicate, what you just described.
A REIT is something where it's more hands off. One person manages it, or one group manages it.
A passive investor.
And if you're a passive investor, you don't get you get some tax advantages, right?
I see. Because it's just, well, I don't know if you would. Maybe you do. I don't, like in a public REIT, if you're just collecting passive income, unless I suppose there might be some kind of special kind of REITs out there, but most REITs, like there's a self-storage REIT,
right,
industrial REIT, a residential, whatever, and it goes on and on. It's just income to the investor, as far as I understand it. So it's taxed as such, not much tax benefit to that passive investor holding shares who's just receiving income every month or every quarter. But not my expertise. So I'm guessing there probably is some way to set it up so there's some tax benefits to get on the private side. Be interesting. I need to dive into this more.
Yeah, I think we have to go do a report. You have to do a 5-page essay.
Yeah, maybe I'll just ask ChatGPT to tell me what it does. What is it?
You can also do a video too. Hey, YouTube, tell me.
Tell me.
This is what I was looking at, right? It was a 1.2 sale pending already, which is good for them. $1.2 million gross revenues, 474 inventory. I don't know what that is, but rent. And then you have to look at it, right? You have to look at all this stuff. And then within it, you have a valuation report. You can ask the agent to give you more information. That's where you get a prospectus, because this is an investment. You have to go through the books. You have to ask for the last couple of years of W-2 or the tax returns. You want to look at their accounting. A lot of this stuff is done under the table. But here, like SBA financing available. So they already pre-approved the business for 25% cash down. That's where we go back to the whole cash stack or the credit stacking.
You would need the credit stacking to get the 25% down, and then have the SBA finance the rest.
And then the personal guarantee to the other thing. So let's say you buy this thing, you're in the $1.2 million, and this guy is a total liar. The only recourse you have is a lawsuit. You have to go back and sue the seller and say, hey, you lied to me. This is not worth $1.2 million. Here's what I found after running it for 6 months. It's only worth like $200,000 based on this. And I'm going to sue you for $1 million plus.
BizBuySell.com. They're like a business broker, you think?
It's like a LoopNet. It's for businesses.
Only reason I bring it up is I wonder if they would be, if you could sue them too. Hey man, this was something you offered.
This is listed by Anjay Singh, who's a California business broker.
Okay, so that person would be, I would think, party to. They'd have to like, hey, let me see the receipts. I would imagine receipts to make sure this is a deal I can sell.
So he has a real estate license, just like me. He could be a broker. He could be an agent. I'm a broker. If I took this as a listing, I would say, okay, we can put this on all the different channels, because there's a bunch of them out there. Biz Buy Sell is one of the many out there.
Would you need a real estate license to do this though? Because are they selling the property, or the lease is coming with this? I would imagine. So that'd be a different thing, right? Or Because
No,
what if your lease isn't going
it's
to
all
be?
inclusive. So this is the whole thing. You buy the business, you buy the goodwill, you buy the assets, and you buy the property or lease
Oh,
the
okay,
property.
got it.
It's all inclusive. So if I bought this, I would also take over the lease, so that the landlord would have to go look at my financial statement and say,
Oh,
yeah, I get it.
that was my question. So the way I'm reading this, there's no the real estate. Okay, there it is. Real estate leased. And in order to do that, you're not assuming the lease. I guess you'd have to have the landlord or whoever would have to also sign off on this. Is that what you're saying?
Yep, absolutely. So it's a lot more complicated than buying a house. Even though buying
Yeah.
a house is complicated, the mortgage industry has made it because of RESPA guidelines, protection, consumer
Yeah.
protection, all that stuff. With this, it's more okay, if I'm going to rent this to you, I'm a landlord, I want to see you have not only $1.2 million, but you also have 5 years in reserves to be able to pay me in case it goes belly up.
Yeah.
And then you have to get insurance. You have to show that you have insurance for that. And when you lease commercial buildings, it's called triple net. That means you get the walls. You lease the walls and the land, and that's it. If you want electricity, you want water, you want air conditioning, you take care of all of that. You have to buy the water heaters. You have to take care of the air conditioning. If the air conditioning goes out, it's a commercial air conditioning. You have to call your HVAC guy, and the tenant is responsible for that.
And despite all of that, this is still a pretty legitimate, as far as buying a business goes, a laundromat in San Francisco, I would imagine you're going to make that money.
There's a bunch of them down there in LA. Look at that.
I mean, 2 employees for that kind of cash flow, I think that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. So here's another one, right? And Wayne, who we'll have on the show in a few weeks, he just bought a pool business, but we're talking about buying a laundromat. Number one is because it's low labor. You can get these and exchange out the coin op for cards. So it's all digital. You put in your credit card, your ATM, whatever, you pay for so many credits and you put it next to the machine and it takes care of it. And then there's companies out there that will manage and maintain the appliances for you. And each one of those things, they're not like a standard washing machine, right? They're industrial grade, they're higher capacity. So they're a lot more, they're like $5,000-$10,000 each. And that's what you're really paying for. And of course, they have capitalized assets. So over 5 years, you get to depreciate it and all that other stuff. It's a great opportunity for people to do this. Number one, low labor, right? I can buy 5 of them. I can have one guy go around and make sure that the soap is done. I can make sure that I have a janitorial service come in and clean. And you can run it 24 hours. And you can do value add stuff too. Like I just saw something where they bought a laundromat. I was up in the mountains somewhere, like in Sonora or Redding, and they put in a little dog washing center.
Nice.
Dude, that is so freaking awesome. So that's just extra money. And while you're washing your clothes, you can wash your dog. Hey, it's a great idea.
We're already piping in water and all that stuff anyways.
But there's a whole lot more into this.
Look, I gets me curious about these types of seemingly low maintenance businesses. This business is pretty low maintenance compared to other businesses. That's if you're going to buy one. I just wonder why people would sell them. It just seems like it's a pretty passive. You get a couple people to run these things for you, just like the way you said. Why sell it?
You know,
People come into different situations and either moving or leaving the country or
Right.
want to leverage money to do the other thing. I guess that's the answer. But they seem like just good, simple businesses that in the right place. And the receipts are the receipts, and the cash flow is the cash flow. And it's curious to me when people sell simple businesses like this that don't require a lot of upkeep of employees, a lot of inventory, all those things.
It's like retirement. So what we're going to be doing at other small businesses is your exit strategy, right? Wayne just bought a pool service company and he manages it. The partners that owned it, they're done. They're still semi-active, but not day-to-day. Wayne took it over because he, corporate America, told what to do and to travel. Kids growing to do this, to take this business, scale it out so that I can grow and then build something that I sell off eventually for a lot more money than what I paid. And then also we're going to like in people and like self coin op car washes and stuff like, and really we're going to pay more per time that we have somebody fixing something, but it's a vendor, it's a contractor. It's just like every time my dryer breaks because my kids don't take out the lint out of the dryer and it overheats the thermocouple and it's a 10-cent freaking piece. It cost me $250 because I have Dr. Appliance guy come over and he goes, "What's wrong with it?" I go, "It's a thermocouple, it's the lint." He goes, "Yep, I know how to do it." He's done in 5 minutes. And you pay $250 because he knows how to fix it in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's better than me having to call my guy who's, "Oh, I'm working by the hour. It's going to take me next to $300." And then he's off futzing around for the rest of the day. So I want to get like a college kid that goes around, fills up all the laundry, the vending machines, make sure everything's working, and then report back to me and say, "Hey, this needs to be done," or just he liaises with the vendors and say, "Duh," and then at the end of the day, I pay him.
Yeah,
Right.
a lot of people retiring is, we talked about this briefly before, and there's so much more to talk about here where this whole generation of business owners, small business owners running boring little businesses like this that are getting out. And it's not, I think what's important to know here is some people get attracted to these not get rich quick, but very simple solutions. They think that will automatically create this lifestyle that they can support. Like the guy's selling it because there's a guy or gal selling this because there is work to do. There's still things you have to do in this business. It's probably not much compared to other ones, but it's not like it's a completely, what's the word, passive investment that you're buying, right? Like you still got to know what you're doing somewhat.
But neither is buying and selling stocks.
Totally.
If you're a day trader, you have to spend 2-3 hours researching, and then you spend an hour doing your trading, and
that's why a lot of people lose money doing that, because they're just not disciplined in that approach. And I think it's simple. Many people can think it's simple. I guess my point is here, this is an awesome opportunity, things like this for so many people, and it's still worth having a team of people or some coaching, some mentoring, making sure you got some pieces that support you in doing all this, because it can be daunting, I think, if you've never done anything like this, to evaluate what works, what doesn't work, and make the jump to dive in and do this. And like, why not? These businesses are all over the place. They're all over the country. I can only imagine what it looks like in almost every other major city across the United States. Got to be similar.
And if you're watching this, you're like, "Oh, I'm going to totally do it." Look, I got to tell you straight up, it's just like buying a fix and flip or it's buying an Airbnb for a house. It's just like buying homes and apartments for rentals. It's the same business mindset. You have to understand the numbers before you get in there. You better have a lawyer. You better have an accountant. You better have a team behind you to understand everything, because getting in is the most dangerous part. But you also have to have the 5-year, 10-year, 15-year and exit strategy. What's going to happen on those milestones? Because how am I going to get out of this? I want to retire in a few years, or I want to go travel for a year, or I want to go travel for 6 months. How do I make sure that this isn't going to be a problem? This allows you to level up and get to a certain consistent income. That's $14,000 a month, right?
That's legit right there.
And now, obviously, these numbers they don't include debt service. So you got to take that into consideration too.
Yeah.
Like professional fees is $2,000. That's you talking to your accountant, and that's you talking to your lawyers, making sure everything's done. License and permits, I doubt it's $19 a month or a year, or that's per month. Okay. So there's no debt service here, right?
I don't see it, no.
Nope. So you got to take that $1 million or $750,000 and put a loan on it, and you're not going to get 5%. You're probably going to be paying 7 or 8%.
Yeah, and the beauty with something like this though is you already have it's already built. So not only are you not spending money on service and debt, you're also not having to spend on marketing, building a funnel, all those things that are required by somebody building a business from scratch, right? So that's pretty awesome that those numbers work.
Yeah. So let's just say it's $1 million, right? And you go 25% down, and you're really at, let's just be conservative at 8%. Your monthly nut is $6,000.
That's for the first and the second. Is that how you have it laid out? Or is it just the first?
It's actually property taxes. Let me see real quick. Taxes. No, that's just probably income taxes. So you're paying rent. Your rent is $12,699 a month. So right away your landlord's making more money than you.
Yeah.
But that's the cost of doing business in California. I'm not
Mhm.
saying do this in California. I'm
So even
saying
with the numbers the way they are and what you were just showing, if you got to finance your down payment, even I think the numbers still work out in your favor. It's tight, but if you, I don't know, maybe that might not be a smart way to do it. But just like you were talking about, if you do that credit stacking to get your down payment in, I think it still works, right? What do you think?
my experience with my properties when I have commercial properties is that it's interest only. So it's not as bad as you think it is. It's actually like $500 less a month. And I wouldn't look at the property taxes and insurance, right? Because your rent is $12,999. And the truth is, you're leasing this too. So next year it's going to go up 5%. And then next year it's going to go up 5%. And the next year it's going to go up 5%. So you got to keep that in mind.
There's a story here or this is just not even a story. This is a small example of all these boring, simple little business out there that are going to be getting sold by a whole generation of retiring business owners, small business owners. Yeah. And this is just laundromats. I'm sure you start brainstorming all these other businesses, we can come up with a ton of other ones, from repair shops to small local logistic suppliers to it just keeps going on and on.
This one's in Campbell, California, right down the
380
street from me, $380,000.
cash flow 19. Interesting.
So, guys, I'm not saying to buy laundromats, right? If you're listening to this, absolutely figure out what makes sense to you. Wayne wanted to do pool service. It made sense to him. He's enjoying it. He's enjoying the learning. He's enjoying the strategy and all that. This is not a passive investment. This is
No.
you're working into your business and you're constantly going to be there every day. So if you live in Campbell or around there, know that you have to go there every day. Even though you have a college student going there every day to fill everything up, you want to make sure everything's done right and just keep an eye on it because this is your money. This is your business,
Or
right?
think about a family that's tight, that where it works, get a couple of brothers, sisters, or siblings, or whatever family that's willing to work together. They can go after things like this in their community and share the load. Obviously, it takes some understanding, some commitment around who's doing what. So it doesn't work for a lot of families, but some folks it could work great for.
I remember a couple of years back, we went to Long Barn. I used to have a cabin up in Long Barn, which is Sonora, Twain Harte. I grew up going there, and then we took over the cabin from the family. We'd go up there every once in a while and hang out. And every year as a kid, when we'd go get pizza at Moon Pizza or have dinner at the Rock, we'd play mini golf, this little schlocky miniature golf place, right? And it was fun. It was just schlocky. I grew up doing that. Years later, back, and the same couple running it, years they sold it because they retired. They sold it to the young couple. Now this young couple is the next generation taking care of their schlocky, fun, and it's memorable to have a lifestyle. They work 4 or 5 months out of the year. The rest of the time they're off skiing, having a good time. They're not going to be bazillionaires, but they're enjoying their life. They're there every day, sun up to sundown. They're working it. I'm sure that they're going to hire kids to help out eventually. It's just nice to see that. And when I brought my kids there, it was very nostalgic and we had fun. So I'm not saying you're going to have fun operating a coin op, but there's opportunities all over the place.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. I'm thinking of just the learning experience alone. My first business, you mentioned a pool service, my first legitimate business, if you will, we were self-employed. Me and we ran a small pool service that we bought from a really good dude down in Southern California. And we didn't know anything about what we were doing. I'm not going to speak for him. I'll speak for myself. I didn't know anything about running a business, about being self-employed, about taxes, about the legalities of such, accounting, balancing the books, billing. And it was a real expensive lesson. And it was lessons that were absolutely invaluable because they've served me for the rest of my life.
Right.
As I've leveled up my experience, it had to start somewhere. And that was a huge learning experience. So I didn't go to a business college, so to speak, but however, that was, my tuition was paid. I'll tell you that much. And I'm sure he would probably agree with that. And doing something like this, even if it didn't work out, those numbers didn't work out completely, the experience you would gain would set somebody up so much for the next business. And looking at what we saw, it's hard to see how those, as long as you get the financing and you're willing to put the work in, it's hard to see how those wouldn't work out. So
I wholeheartedly agree. And there's always the option of starting up your own business, right? What does that
yeah,
look like? You're going to be buying 30, 40, 50 dryers and washers, and how much do those cost a piece? 5 or 10 grand a piece. How are you going to get the financing for that? Do you have experience? How are you going to convince a bank to help you out with that? So there's tons of options for you to do that.
yeah,
If you're in corporate America or you're out of the military and you're a veteran, you're starting to twiddle your thumbs trying to figure out what to do, and you don't want to work for somebody, starting a business or buying a business might be your option, right?
absolutely.
And the reason why we're talking about it, you mentioned a few times already, is because there's going to be a huge amount of people my age and older retiring in the next 10, 20 years. And some of them are just shuttering their doors. They're just done. I talked
Yeah.
to a guy who ran a multi-million-dollar plumbing company one day, and he just shut it down like 2 years before. I'm like,
Wow.
what? You just sell the assets that you have in your yard. Yeah, that's worth about $1 million. Like, what are you doing with it? I'm just going to throw it away. I'm like, dude, what? I'm like, go talk to these people.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you that I want to represent you in this, because I am not the person to represent you in this, right? I have a couple people that I've worked with before, and I refer them business because it is such a niche understanding of what you're looking out for, right? It's like, for me, I know how to buy a house. I know what to look out for. I know how to look for foundation damage. I know how to look for termite damage.
Yeah.
I know how, right? And still, I'm human. I'm not going to catch everything. It's the same thing. You need to know the same, every little detail about presenting a business.
Yeah.
And again, if you're going to buy a restaurant or a tour company, that's not hands off.
It's just a very different come from and very different experience to go from scratch to buying something that's running, where you should be able to open up the books and see, is this legitimately cash flowing and this will work? That's just a complete different experience altogether.
But mini golf and laser tag business,
For those of you into that.
turf installation business. So there's
Yeah,
so
there you
many
go. I mean, it
things.
just goes on and on.
Like, my mechanic wants to retire, and he had a number, and I had this guy. We were like 3 days away from closing, and then his wife came in and said, nope, we're not going to do it. So
Wow.
understand that these businesses, they either sell really quick, or they're overpriced, or there's something not right with it, and they'll just sit on the market on stuff like this for eons. They don't sell. And I remember seeing something that's like 1 in 8 businesses actually sell.
No kidding.
Yeah. It could be different now because I haven't looked at this stuff in a long time, but turnkey Mexican restaurant, great pool route, Borrego Springs, state of the art. There you go, dude.
Hey, cannabis business for sale. Now, why is this being sold?
So much opportunity, right? And these are either, so buyer beware. Like yesterday, I went to a listing agreement, a listing meeting to a lady over here, and she ran a daycare, and she had listed it 7 times with 7 different agents since 2017. So I sit down with her. I'm like, why'd you call me? Blah, blah, blah. Why haven't you sold it? Oh, I have offers on it. I go, why aren't you selling it? I got an offer for 2.3. I'm like, oh, really? Yeah, but they wanted me to carry back the note, and I didn't want that. Whoa, that's how, when you have a daycare center that's a house, that's real estate property, you have to be flexible in that. I don't want anything to do with that. I'm like, but you had an offer for 2.3. Yeah. And she goes off on this tirade of this and that. And I start asking her questions. I started poking holes in her story. And I'm like, you know what? Let me do some research. I gracefully backed away. And to me, that person is pie in the sky, completely out in the universe, overpriced expectations. And she's, I have so many real estate agents telling me that I have offers and I can list your home. I'm like, okay, you know what? I let me go do some research. So I'm like, I don't want anything to do with it. So buyer beware, right? Caveat emptor. It's absolutely something you have to do when you're buying it. It's like when you research a company for stock trading, right? You want to know where on the quadrant this company is. Are they doing healthy? Are they in recession? Are they cyclical? Should I wait? You know, that kind of stuff. Is it a new CEO? publicly traded companies have to be up and up in certain reporting, right? These companies, they can lie to you.
Yeah. And I mean, look at the diversity of stuff here. It just goes on and on. Excuse me.
Yeah. See, I would never buy a contractor company. You could just restart. HVAC.
Yeah.
There's so many HVAC companies out there, and a lot of them don't know what they're doing. Like you said, learning business it's not just a science. It's not just a degree. It's an art form, because everything has a different touch to it. Your client is going to be different. The way you report is different. The way you charge is different. And there's so many moving parts. That's why I would never get into this. I have a friend who selling businesses like this.
Oh,
Just something I don't want to do. There's another layer of stuff that I have to learn.
however, I am actually very excited for what's possible here for a new generation of entrepreneurs who are willing to take some risk and get the experience of buying, running, and owning these small businesses that really need somebody to carry it on. The economy needs it, the communities need it. These are businesses that are in communities that employ people who help run what's going on in our small towns and small communities, which make up the larger whole. And so, huge opportunity. I was reading an article. What first turned me on to this was what was in Japan. They're having the same problem on steroids. Now, they don't have the same population numbers, but the percentages is just even higher, meaning the number of small businesses that are unable to find somebody to run it or sell it to. So they're just closing because they're an aging population with the the demographics just are just so bad, right? And so it was just incredible, the story that was getting painted over there when it comes to the small business community and finding somebody to run these things. And so they're not finding them, so they're closing. Well, guess what? Those communities, those cities are impacted when that happens. And here, the story, I think, is a little different. We still have the same problem in that you have a whole generation, we talked about already, those who want to take on this risk and do this. And so I think you talked about earlier, like the veteran community. You're talking about soldiers, sailors, airmen, coasties, even the spaceys. That's right,
Doggies.
in there, whatever they may be. There's a lot of support. There's a lot of grants. There's a lot of mentorship. There's a lot of resources out there to help. It's somebody who wants to bring their enthusiasm, their energy, and youth take on the exciting journey of owning a small business, which can be brutal, and it's an incredible experience that for the right folks, man, anything is possible here. Look at this, from pizza to physical therapy. So I think if you have a passion or there's something you're interested, there's business built around that. So you don't have to start from scratch, and there's nothing to say that you can't still go on and build something from scratch. However, why not learn how to do it from a business that's already profitable?
Yeah.
Right.
And you have opportunities to buy franchises. Like this right here is a franchise. Franchises are great ways to have somebody hold your hand to learn how to run a business, their system. The problem is, it's like buying a condominium versus a house. You have restrictions that you can and cannot do.
Yeah.
You have to run it their way. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing, because look at McDonald's, right? But another thing that we're seeing is larger big box retail companies, they're not recession proof, and they're cycling out. So you're going to see big, huge department stores, Best Buys, go the way of Circuit City, because they'll come back, right? But there's no real need to have 150,000 square feet of computers and appliances and because you can get all that stuff online now. There's like a Lowe's and Home Depots will always be around because people always need to buy stuff for fixing their houses. But do you really need to have 150,000 square feet to go look at a computer? No, you can go to the Apple store. You can go to the little tiny computer store to do that. And I think we're going to see a resurgence of these companies, small businesses, come back and become more powerful.
Agreed. So I think huge opportunities for the right folks. Look at that, farmers. There you go. Cash flow 360. That was equipment rental business. It's just,
That's Rim Forest.
Right on.
So I keep looking into this. I'm like, oh, going down my little rabbit hole. But it's fun to look. You could spend a day, 2 days just goofing around. And I don't know if I would start my own. I would probably start my own cannabis delivery service. And here's the thing, right? It took me 10 years to figure out. I've been doing real estate for 20 years. It took me 10 years of struggling how to run my business in real estate. The biggest lesson I learned is you can't do everything. You have to trust in other people, not just lawyers, financial advisors, real estate, but vendors, people that can help you get things done. You should not be an on-site business owner, because then the business owns you. Hey, let's go build a sailboat.
Mufflers and Cadillac converters. There you go. I hear there's a problem with those in some cities.
Yeah, my son got his snagged.
Oh, really?
Wow. Window tint, PPF, and wrap shop. $1 million. Holy cow.
I don't know about that one, man. I know there's a few spots in LA where you can just cruise down the street and pull over and they'll handle your tinting for you.
That's crazy. All right. So I'm glad we got to talk about this today. It's nice to talk about stuff outside of our normal realm, because business life, learning how to live within your means and talking about all these different things, it can get overwhelming, but that's what we're here to do, is talk to people and learn about different professions. So I think when Wayne jumps on, I'm really excited to talk to him about what we're doing. We're going to talk to JP next week, hopefully, and talk to him about his adventures after he left the military and what he's doing as a small business owner. So I'm excited to see all this stuff.
Yeah, same here. Specifically this opportunity that's going to be, I think we're going to start seeing more and more news articles, whether it's in print or in podcast form or in video form, talking about this looming issue of that generation of business owners who are retiring, trying to figure it out and who to sell their business to, because they don't have an heir, so to speak. So yeah, I'm glad we're talking about it. Watch, I bet we'll start seeing those things start to pop up now in our consciousness out here.
Any questions, give us a call. If you have ideas or you want to be on the show, let us know. Love to interview you.
Heck yeah. Till next time, go Army, beat Navy.
See you out there.
Couldn't give